I'm going to try and make this short and sweet for you here. So, looking at this shock right here, first thing you want to do is build the shock just like normal. There's nothing special here. But if you look right here on the end, you see where that black E-clip is in there that goes around the shock shaft? You want to throw like a 0.1 millimeter shim in there. It's going to make that E-clip fit on there really tight. Use a pair of needle nose or something, but it takes out any play that you have in between the piston. It just makes the shock feel good. So use like a 0.1 adjustment shim, something like that. If you don't have one, I can get some to you. That's really the only trick to building that part of it. But as far as actually building it with oil, what you want to do is, you see this shock length right here? What you're going to do when you build it is you're going to take this thing after you put the bladder on, and you're going to move it half of this distance. Half the distance of this shaft in between this plastic piece and up here at the bottom of the shock. So when you put the bladder on there, you basically move this in halfway. It doesn't have to be exact, but right about there. And that's going to give you a dead shock. So what I'll do here, see if I can do this. I've rigged up a camera mount here that's pretty janky, but let's see here. Let me grab some of this oil. I'm using Low C35 for asphalt. But what I'm going to do is fill this in here. Sorry about the camera angle. I just fill it all the way up to the top. Put this over here. Fill it all the way up to the top. And you just move the shock shaft up and down. See the bubbles coming out of there? All you want to do is just move it up and down a few times. Try and get some of those bubbles out. And let the bubbles rise out. If you have a shock pump, it makes it quicker, but you just let those come out. We'll just pretend like those actually came out. I'll rebuild this thing later, but I'll show you how I do this thing. So you take this and you take your bladder, right? Now you move it all the way down. This shaft down here at the bottom is all the way out. So you move it all the way down, and then you take this bladder, and when you put it on here, you put it on, roll it. So I just set it on there, and I let it flop over. So it's sitting on there, and then you just take your finger and push the oil out, keeping this bladder on there. I'm trying to do this on the camera, and it's screwing up. Pretend I did it right. So you put that on there, and all the oil is squeezed out the side. I usually put a paper towel around this thing, but if I do that right now, you won't be able to see shit. And I do that, and then I take this shaft, and I move it halfway in with the bladder on there, and it pushes this bladder up. And just take your finger and kind of tap it a little bit. Try and get a little bit of oil around the side. Don't lift this bladder up. If you lift the bladder up, air gets underneath and it just completely ruins it. So you just kind of tap it, move it around a little bit, try and get some of the excess oil out of there. Your shock shaft is halfway up. Once you have that, you just take your cap on the top, and then your screw cap, put it on there, and tighten her down, keeping this thing at half distance. This is going to be a gooey mess because I don't have the paper towel on there, but just tighten it up, just like so. And now your shock shaft is still halfway in, halfway out. Now you can pull it out, it's dead. You push it in, it's dead. You might get a little tiny bit of rebound when you first build it, but don't worry about it because that will actually deaden up after a couple of runs. But that's it. So that just builds a dead shock. So when I'm doing this with the shock, it's not rebounding, it's not doing anything funky. So if you built it right, that's the way it will work. But that's it. There's nothing really special about this stuff. It's just a matter of putting the shock shaft halfway up and getting the excess oil out of the bladder up above. And that's just kind of tapping your finger a little bit, kind of swirling it around a little bit so the oil can come out the side. And that's it. That builds a dead shock. And that's all you're looking for in a shock. It's simple, dude.